Welcome to Transformation with Martine. Martine Emmons is a transformational life coach who broke free from childhood abuse, sexual trauma, and overcame cancer to become a powerful force of healing and hope for others. Martine describes traumatic events as fierce emotional tsunamis. They can leave impending doom and destructive tidal waves of emotions that hit you when you least expect it. Martine helps her clients dive into the depths of their trauma and pain as she stands fiercely advocating for them to shine a light on those experiences and find the lesson in the pain. She serves as a beacon of hope that guides you to see the strength, lessons, and purpose that can be born from the pain. You can feel alive with purpose again when you awaken your dormant strength, step into your power with a sense of peace, and discover a new wave of hope with the right tools and support. Martine and her guests are here shining their lights today through empowering stories of hardship and transformation to inspire you to find hope and to see that there is a beautiful blue ocean of serenity, happiness, and fulfillment in your future. Transformation with Martine starts now.
Welcome to Transformation with Martine, where we overcome everything, already the emotion, and compromise nothing. I am so happy to be here. For those of you who don't know, my show is live every Fridays, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and my show is about hope. I, as well as the guests that I invite on this show, firmly believe that us, oh my God, as humans can overcome anything. And by the way, happy New Year's Eve, everybody. I'm so happy to be here with you for this, or New Year's Eve day. And without further ado, I want to welcome my guest. And yeah, this is going to bring me emotion because she and I have been in this work for a long time. And without her, I would not be where I am today. We met many years ago, and when I met her, she scared me because she could see through me, and nobody else really had. So she is extra special to me because now, like, we are friends. She is my coach, and I just love her. Michelle, please introduce yourself in a better way, and tell us why you're here and the kind of work that brought you here, and just your life, an experience that brought you to know you wanted to do more in this world.
Right? I just want to breathe all that in, and thank you for just feeling it, that was something for me that I didn't do, right, for many years. Let me collect myself. So my background, I went to college for theater and dance. My background was in the restaurant industry because I was one of those people, who knew that there was something I was supposed to be doing, but didn't know what that was. And I couldn't figure it out, there was something I was supposed to be doing, but I couldn't figure it out. And I was working really hard at a lot of different things. And I spent the majority of my life without being consciously aware of it, really operating under performance programming. And what I mean by that is that I believed that in order to be successful, in order to be loved, in order to be valued, I really needed to bring it, right? I needed to bring not just my good, but I needed to bring my flawless, my perfect. And that pattern of behavior really led me to not just serving, right? Because I know, Martine, you like me have we have more of that serving heart, 100%. But over serving, and not even just over serving. I call it dirty service because I didn't realize it, but it was totally selfishly motivated because I believed if I did that, right, if I served enough, that I would get the love and I would get the acceptance. So it wasn't even coming from this like healthy, pure place. It was coming from this dirty place. And I really believed that I had to earn my seat at every table, right? That like who I was just wasn't enough, right? I had to work harder. I had to do more. I had to be better. And even if I did get at the table, right, I still had to earn my place to keep it, right? So it was like the work was never, I know, right? Like the work was never ending. It was never anything that was, that I could ever relax from or get a break from. And I got into personal development through my direct sales company. And up until like the early 2000s, I was actually unfamiliar with the concept that you could change your thoughts, right? I didn't realize that I had any kind of power or control over any of that. I just thought how I was how I was. And I just had to kind of deal with it. And through that process, I actually got into coaching as a client in 2013. I wasn't looking though to change any of my patterns because all the stuff I just shared, Martine, I didn't even know was operating. I just knew I wanted to be successful. I wanted the work I was doing to make more of an impact. And at that time, you really couldn't talk me out of the idea that my like internal dialogue, right? That harsh perspective and that kind of unrelenting, never enough voice wasn't actually serving me because it was helping me get the recognition and get the celebration and get the acknowledgement. And so I was in this really self-abusive relationship for about 41 years. And it just got to a point where I wanted to be able to look at myself in the mirror and I didn't even want to love myself. I just wanted to not hate who I saw when I looked in the mirror. Right. And I got to a point, and this was in, probably 2017, 2018, where I was able to really separate myself from that part of me that believed my humanity, right? My emotions, my vulnerability, my imperfection was actually to be celebrated, right? Instead of something that was wrong and deserved to be punished. And so for me, a lot of the journey has been about not like, one of the things that I really stand for is self-love wasn't the process for me. It was the result of the work that I did, right? Because I was reading all the books, right? I was, doing all the things, I was taking all the classes, and I still looked in the mirror and I still hated the reflection. So I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong until I recognized I really had to understand and get to know the parts of me that didn't actually like me. And through that process, the love was the result. And so now, I mean, that's really the fuel for what I do and who I work with, and really helping people see that there's another path, because I knew that this was possible for some people. I just didn't think it was possible for me at the time. And I want other people to know that it's possible for them too.
Right. When you say like, you knew you wanted to be successful, you wanted to make an impact, but you didn't want to change anything. What did that do inside? Like, you don't want to change anything. You want to be successful, yet were those voices or the not so nice talk and all that, was that screaming for your attention in the part of success, of wanting success, wanting impact?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, it was almost like there was like this entity, right, that was like always like on my shoulder. You know what I mean? Like, so it never turned off to the point that I just thought it was who I was. Like, I really, truly thought it was just part of me. And it was, there were so many conversations that I was just hearing internally of, you're not enough, that's not enough, or calling me names, telling me that I'm stupid, or I don't know if any of the listeners can relate to this, but I would like replay conversations, right, in my head, right? Something that I said or I did, whether it was with like a prospect in my business or even with a friend, right, or a family member. And I would just like hear it over and over again, while also hearing like that voice being like, you shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
That was stupid. That's why, you're not successful. You're not getting these results. And it was like, I not only did I have to motivate myself to get up and do the work every day, it was also, I had to motivate myself to like be able to fight, is what I thought, that voice, right? Like that we were going to go blow to blow. And I had to like fight that in order to be able to function in my day. And it's why I believe now I was so exhausted, right? Because everything was such like a huge effort for me. So it wasn't like I was just doing the work. I was also navigating my relationship with that inner critic, right?
Yeah, gosh, I get that fully, because there's just like still rears its head once in a while for me, for sure. And yeah, it just kind of comes up like, my God, what is wrong with you? Can you just get it together? This comes at me. But with what you were talking to about the whole mirror and looking yourself in the mirror, it reminds me of, I don't know how many years ago this was, but where, normally a mirror exercise, is looking in the mirror and telling yourself you've done good. Well, you had me do the opposite one time, to actually talk to those parts of myself like, yeah, you are stupid. And, tell my God, that was brutal, because I actually looking in the mirror and looking into my own eyes, gosh, it's like, wow, I'm being as mean as perhaps my father or some other person that hurt me in my past was being. And I'm like, what am I doing? That was brilliant and a huge turning point.
One of my favorite Carl Jung quotes is, until we make the unconscious conscious, it runs our life and we just call it fate. And that for me was the inspiration for that process, because most of the time, and I'm so happy that it was so powerful for you, the voice is quiet, right? Meaning we're the only ones who hear it, right? Other people, I mean, like, it's not like we all have, microphones on where our inner dialogue is being broadcast, right? Like on the radio or for everybody to hear. And if it was, I think it would change. Because we'd be like, I don't like, that's like you said, right? That's mean. It's abusive. And I use that word for my own self, that I say I was in an abusive relationship, because it got to a point where I recognized I needed to call this what it actually is, and not just be like, oh, it's my inner critic. Because if a partner, right, whether it's romantic or business or a friend spoke to me in this way, that's what they would call it. Right? Like you're in this is an abusive relationship. And yeah, so having that real conversation where you look yourself in the mirror and don't keep it in your head, say it out loud. Yeah. Right? Like, let's just bring that attention to it so that you can really see what's going on and hear yourself out loud actually say those things. And for a lot of people, that brings it just lands differently, right? It just brings this like, what am I doing, right? Energy, like what you said.
Because to me, it was all about like, I was abused as most of my listeners, and that I was definitely very abused as a kid. And then I thought, my God, here I am continuing the same thing. It's like, that is long ago over. I'm in my 50s now here, early 50s, but I'm there. And dang, that had to stop. And I know when I got diagnosed with cancer, I think that was like a turning point. I didn't get as involved as when I met Sean and you and part of our community. I didn't get as into it, but I've been in personal development since I was 23. I had an amazing boss that, brought me to metaphysical things and meditation and all that good stuff. And there was, what reminds me of is, I remember, and this was also a turning point, but I didn't do anything about it, was a friend of my boss has said, or asked me, he goes, have you forgiven your father? And I said, yes, I have. And did you realize what you just did? Turning my head side to side, that no, I didn't forgive him. Not really, even if I told myself I have or whatever. So yeah, it's a powerful journey, very powerful journey. So Michelle, we're going to take a break in a moment. When you, again, like when you dove into the personal development, besides being success, was there something like one little, like cancer brought me there? Like, yes, I've been in it for a while, but to really like, all right, this is it, go. Did you have one of those moments?
Yeah. When I was in the journey already. So
Mhm.
what really brought me there was genuinely, I couldn't understand why I was working really hard and not getting the results that I wanted. But as I started to see other people who were successful in the way that I wanted to be successful, meaning not only were they joyful, Martine, they were living their life authentically. And I thought, I want that. Like, I want that. Like, how do you get there? But I didn't see any of that until I actually got in the industry. So it was that desire to be like these people I saw living their lives kind of unleashed in this full, beautiful, authentic way that I thought, there's something more that I'm not experiencing.
I love that. And it's such a journey. It's a beautiful journey. It's a hard journey, but it's so worth it, worth every little bit. So when we come
Amen.
back, yeah. So when we come back, we'll talk more about our journeys and, transformation and authentic, real talk like we usually do on my show. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you in a few. Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine, where we overcome everything and compromise nothing. My guest today is Michelle Moore, and we have been talking about being on a personal growth journey, what it was that brought her to it, what it was that brought me to it, and finding more how we can live our authentic lives. So on the break, we were chatting a bit about certain parts of us that are calling for our attention, which to me means our soul. You feel these longings, you feel these desires, you feel something brewing up in you, and sometimes we shove it aside, like I can't do that, or whatever the case. But these parts, these messages, they're trying to tell us to take action to our soul purpose. Michelle, what was like speaking loudest to you in the beginning of your journey, and what would you advise other people that are feeling this pull but aren't really sure what to do with it?
I love that question. So there's a couple of things. Early on, like I was sharing before the break, I recognized I was actually at a personal development event, like a live event, and we had gone through this process. It was like this, meditation exercise, and we were guided to this moment, like at our funeral, right? And I remember going through this meditation experience, and I remember watching my funeral. And I could see that there were so many people there, right? Like there were so many people that were so sad, and they were grieving this, like the passing of this person. And I had this, like, kind of this deep sort of sinking feeling in my chest, because they were all sad for the death of somebody, but none of them really knew me. And so it was like they were grieving the loss of this fabricated version of me that I had created, while I knew that I didn't and I was me, right? They didn't do anything wrong. I kept them. It was like I had this wall, this barrier that was in front of me, and I kept them from knowing me and from seeing me. And that moment was profound for me. Like, I was angry, but in like the fiery, passionate way, not angry in like an abusive way, but it was like, what are you doing? Like, is this how you really want to live your life? Like, all these people, they don't even know you, right? And for me, that was a huge turning point of recognizing that, and really speaking out loud, admitting that I wasn't okay the way that I was living. right? I was a person who used the phrase, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. Consistently, how are you? I'm fine. And inside, I wasn't okay. And it was shortly after that event that I really just allowed those moments of, you know what, I'm not fine. I'm angry or I'm upset. And I started to get more in touch with my feelings and with the different sensations that were in my body. I started to tune more from the external, like the outside world, and I started to tune more in. And initially for me, that started really small. You know, I heard people who meditated and I thought that sounded really good. I couldn't sit still for 60 seconds, let alone these people who could do it for hours at a time. I was in awe of them. But I started with just 30 seconds and then 60 seconds. And this is what I would invite any listener to do. And I say all of this, and please, if you're somebody who has experienced like deep levels of trauma, don't do this alone, right? Get support, because it's really important that you are in a container where you are held and supported as you go through this journey, because slowing down and tuning in to somebody who's gone through a lot of really deep trauma, that can be terrifying. And you don't have to do that process alone. And that said, I just started with like 30 seconds and I would close my eyes and I just would breathe. I didn't try to meditate like in an official way. I just breathed and I just started to notice, sort of scanning my body and just noticing sensations. I didn't start by trying to label feelings or figure out what, the message was, right? I just started noticing sensations. Maybe there was a tightness in my chest, or maybe there was an ache in my abdomen, or a tingling in my hips, or a cramping in my leg. And I just noticed that. And then I showed up the next day and I did it again, just 30 seconds. And then I increased that to 60 seconds. And then I increased it and I got to a place now, and it's still not a long time for me, relatively speaking, but I can sit and be still for 10 minutes. But earlier this year, it was just 3. And just that process of initially just tuning in, noticing those sensations, and allowing myself to, place my hand on them and really just like feel into those. And from that place, I started to open up conversation. And while this might sound crazy to anybody that's new to this type of process, the reality is that inside of any relationship, healthy communication, right? You think about your job with your boss or your coworkers, your relationships. Relationships require open, honest, compassionate conversation that are fueled, right, by a desire to truly understand another person's perspective, not to have your objective, right, met, but like I'm coming to the table here with a desire to really, truly understand you. And that's what I started with, was that desire to understand. I didn't try to jump to compassion. I didn't try to jump to love. I didn't try to at first, let me be honest, I did try to get that voice just to go away, because honestly, Martine, I thought that was the point, right? I thought that the goal was get the voice to shut up, right? But what I realized is like, oh, I need to understand it first, right? I need to understand. And then that understanding can lead to compassion. And from there, we can now maybe shift how that energy is showing up for me. So it started by just me asking a very simple question, right? Do you have a message for me? Is there anything you want me to know? And honestly, at the beginning, I got nothing, right? I got no information, but that I believe that it was more important for me to show up for myself than it was for me to get the answers. And so what I would invite the listener to do is just that. Focus on not just the outside, but go inside, notice those sensations, and then just ask, right? Is there anything you want me to know? And wait and listen for an answer. And if nothing comes, that's okay. Do it again tomorrow. And it's just that act of, it's really mindfulness, right? Of just tuning in and paying attention and believing that the body actually does have something valuable to say. because oftentimes, right, like when you were saying, yes, I forgave my father while shaking your head no,
Yep.
is that intellectually we know something, but our body is not there, right? And so for me, I began to heal that relationship that I had with my reflection when I moved from trying to just banish all of my feelings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the sensations and the emotions, and began to seek understanding of their fears, of their hurts, of their motivations, and of their desires. And that's where the compassion and the love came.
Yeah, it helps, like all of our relationships, of course. If we can be compassionate and kind to ourselves, it helps with all of our relationships out there. And I mean, it sounds like you were saying, it sounds almost a little crazy, but our body has so much wisdom. And I was always kind of, because I was never really happy with my physical form, that I was always kind of trying to separate that out. Like, that's not me, but our body is a part of us. It houses our souls. And if we can just listen to the wisdom that is there, I pay more attention now where I didn't before. Like, women, we often just push that away because we do have pains in our life, from whether it's the monthly thing or whatever it's going on. We have those pains, and we're just often put it aside. We have too much to do and everybody else to take care of. But boy, what a difference does it make to just love and listen and hear. Even if you just acknowledge it, sometimes it subsides. Headache, maybe a pain in your shoulder, whatever, it subsides a bit. Man, our body wants to be heard.
Amen. Yeah. And so much to the point that the sounds will get louder, right?
Yeah.
If we don't listen to those whispers. And my belief system is that that's where a lot of our disease and pains are actually rooted in, is our unexpressed feelings and emotions, and the body remembers. And that's how she speaks, in the sensations, in the sounds, in the sicknesses, in the silence. And we practice our listening through the asking and the acknowledging and the appreciation and the acceptance.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I was just thinking, well, actually, I guess I just lost my train of thought, but in regards to paying attention to our feelings, if we just listen and feel the message, more comes. The more comes, the more that we listen and pay attention. And just everything starts to shift inside when we do.
Absolutely. There's a book, Robert Holden, I believe, is the author, called Shift Happens. And one of the things he speaks to in there is that our feelings are like little people.
Yes,
right?
they are.
And so if we think about them, to what you were just saying, when they know we're paying attention, they start talking. I remember when I very first started, because I used to be somebody who I would never take any time off because of everything I shared at the beginning, right? I believed I had to constantly be working, right? I had to hustle for my worthiness.
Yep.
And so in that, if I did have a day where I rested, right, I remember saying this out loud. This is why I don't take any time off, because every time I take time off, I feel worse, right? Like I actually feel worse. And then it occurred to me, and this is real talk, just this past year, that I realized, oh, maybe because I'm doing what you just said, Martine, I'm actually listening. And my body's like, oh my God, she finally hears us. Well, we do not feel good, right? We're exhausted, right? And so I did, it was almost like going through a detox, right? I almost felt worse because I was listening. And I know for me, when I feel listened to, I want to share more, and our bodies are the same.
Yes. And what I was thinking of before was, I guess it all depends on what you believe, but I believe a lot of what Louise Hay used to say. God, what a beautiful, amazing woman she was. I fully know my cancer was resentment. I 100% know it. I was so resentful of my dad, the men who took advantage of me as a little girl sexually, and just even my divorce, not being heard there, not being listened to, not being important enough to fight for. I fully know that. And when I really thought about this big old tumor that was removed from my body, it was like the size of a bigger baby, over 8 pounds, 8.5 pounds. And I think, my God, my poor body, what I did by not listening, by not even listening to the physical signs it gave me that I had a problem, but just not listening to so many parts of me that just wanted to be healed. But I didn't, because like you, it's like, well, I got too much to do. My God, I got to be going all the time, because if I'm not going, I'm lazy. If I'm not going, I'm not worth anything. Yes. So we are going to take a break again, and we'll be right back. We are going to come back and talk more about feelings and the messages that our body has and whatever else comes up. Thank you, everyone. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine. This is where we overcome everything and compromise nothing. My guest today is Michelle Moore, and we've been talking about, well, every authentic conversation about transformation, about the personal growth journey. And we left off, I was mentioning that I had cancer, and when I really realized that it was resentment that caused it, God, I felt bad. But as Michelle and I were talking about on the break, it's like, you do the best we can with what you got at the time. I didn't really know any better. I just knew I had to keep going in my life. I had to, whether it was being a good wife, mother, employee, whatever it was, I always had to be moving. If I wasn't moving, I was lazy. I just wasn't doing enough. I wasn't good enough if I wasn't moving. So I did the best I could with what I got. Like I was saying. So yeah, there is no shame. Wherever you are, you do the best you can with what you got. And what do you think, Michelle? What would you add to that?
Yeah, I mean, and I did it like along the journey. So this is coming from experience of not doing what I said, like initially, or what I'm about to say, which is just understanding that at that time, right, you made the best decisions with the resources, with the awarenesses, with the knowledge that you had at the time. And one of my favorite Maya Angelou quotes is, you do the best you can until you know better. And then when you know better, do better. And she doesn't say, then when you know better, do better, and then shame yourself and beat yourself up for what you didn't know back then, right? Because you didn't know it. And so that as you move through this journey, we don't want to make it worse by, now you have this information, and instead of moving forward, now you turn back around and beat up this younger version of you who didn't have the information that you have now at the time that she made the decision. She didn't have the resources you have now at the time, right? Now that you know what you know, you didn't know me then, you weren't in the work like you are now. You didn't have all that information. And so it's really important throughout the process that we can separate ourselves, right? And recognize that that was an earlier version of us. And it would almost be like beating up a 5-year-old who doesn't know how to drive a stick shift, right? Like they don't have that information. So it's all good that they don't know it. And now that they do, they can move forward. And so just being aware of that in your own life. And some of that has just been really helpful for me to write myself letters or have conversations with that younger version of me, and letting that part of me know, like, hey, I get that you were doing the best that you could, and I'm going to take it from here.
Right. And that reminds me of what you told me a long time ago, and I have done it ever since, and I've shared it with my own clients, is to kind of keep a list of things that you have done good. For the times that you are down, or you just feel like, as we talk about in our community, I'm just going to go back to work. Forget this. This is too dang hard. So if you can keep a list, of evidence of the things that you have done and the success that you have had in those moments when you need a boost to get going again, that is, I highly recommend that, as Michelle does as well, obviously, that, just keep a list of your accomplishments, because you know what, you're doing really good.
Absolutely. And it's so much easier for us to see where we're not, right?
Mhm.
Because,
Sure.
as we learn things, things become automated and they become unconscious to us. And when something's unconscious, we don't actually recognize it until, as you just expressed, we actually are deliberate and intentional with capturing those things down. And so it's really important to remind ourselves of all the areas where we really are doing a great job.
Right, right. And that brings me to a point that we were talking about a little bit on break. So we have things we want to do in life, and whatever that is for you out in the audience, I will have Michelle share what she wants. Me, I love podcasting. I love interviewing people. I am highly curious person. So coaching and interviewing and podcasting is definitely my thing. I love doing it. But I also knew that if I wanted to interview people, I had to have a platform to do it, which is why I chose podcasting. And I wanted to do it live because it scares me. It's going to push me out there. And even with coaching, it's like you've got to do some work. You can't just wish you were a coach or a speaker or whatever it is. So, Michelle, can you speak to that? Like, because I know what you want to do. Can you tell the audience and steps that you are taking to put yourself out in that action?
Yeah, I love it. So it's so funny because it doesn't matter how long we're in this work or what we do, right? You're a transformational coach. I'm a transformational coach. We do this work, and yet we're still human, right? And humans do human things. And one of my desires that I've actually had for probably a year is to be a TEDx speaker. And it's actually something, Martine, that you talked to me about, right? Last year. Right? And I think I probably just, politely just dismissed it, right? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm busy. But it's been a desire that I have. And I posted about this on social media for the first time publicly. Now I'm telling all of you this. And I was thinking yesterday, I was eating breakfast and I was like, I want to be like really good. And I was thinking about people that I know. One of my friends and mentors, Sean Smith, has won numerous awards. He's a brilliant transformational speaker. Another friend and mentor, Lisa Nichols, phenomenal. One of the world's most requested and sought after speakers. And I was like, man, I want to be like really freaking good like they are. And I'm smart enough in this work. And I was like, okay, so you sitting here eating your breakfast, thinking about this, that's not how you get there. And I know so many of us, and I do this, we do it with weight loss, right? Martine, you brought up on the break, we do it with our financial circumstances. We just want to, there's a popular saying that's going on right now, right? Can we skip to the good part, right? Can we skip to the good part? I just want to get, I want to get to the change. I don't want to do the changing, right? Because most of us don't want to suck, which is part of being good, right? And especially if, I have a story in my background, you have a very similar one, when we believe that we need to be perfect, right? In order to be loved, accepted, acknowledged, celebrated, the sucking part is scary. Right. And so I just want to be real about that. It's not comfortable, but the truth is we have to go through that on the journey. We have to not be great. And then we have to be like, nah, that was okay. And then we have to be okay. And then we have to be all right. And then we have to be pretty good. And we move through that and we forget. It's so easy for us to forget when we look at people who are where we ultimately would strive to be. We convince ourselves, I convince myself and tell myself a story that they were never where I am right now. And that's just not true. They didn't fall out of the womb and then just open their mouth. And they're transformational speakers. They spoke a lot. They talk a lot. They do the thing that they want to do a lot. And that's how they get good. You get good after you get going. And that, for me, that reminder was okay, I gotta start talking about things that I believe in and things that I'm passionate about. And I made a commitment to do 3 videos a week just because I was like, I've got to get myself talking, because so many times what we do, and I'm a we, is that we sit here where we are and we wish we were over there.
Yes.
Right. But we don't get there the only way we get there is by stepping from here. Right. And we have to be willing to do the work. Right. There's so many people that would just take like, oh, I'm a millionaire, right? They would win the lottery, but they won't do the work that's required. And so honestly, we have a couple choices in the way I see it, is that I can either just be happy where I am, or I've got to be willing to do what the people who are where I want to be are doing. Right. And there's no judgment on either one, but I'm going to set myself up for a lot of frustration and irritation and judgment if I'm waiting. How am I going to get good at speaking without speaking?
Right.
Right. There's no magic fairy that's going to bop me on the head with her wand. Right.
Oh, but why not?
I know. Right. And I've had many a client that are like, can I just give you my brain and then you just fix it and then give it back to me?
Get in there and fix it. Yeah.
Right. Like do some magic and then hand it back over.
Yeah.
And I understand that we want that, but the reality is, even if we got that it's the journey that's actually, honestly, and I know it doesn't seem like this, but it's the journey that really is the fun part, because that's where there's all the learning. That's where there's the discovery. That's where there's the new like awarenesses and ahas. And the process to get there is one thing at a time. And that's a big thing for me, because so many of us, and I do this, like if I don't catch myself, I'm so good at this, is that we way overcommit. We say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do 100 push-ups every single day. It's like, really, Michelle, you're doing 0 right now. So how about you just start with one thing? And then when you do that one thing, then you do another thing. And it's that consistency over the intensity of the depth of something that actually allows us to get to where it is that we want to go. And so taking a look at what is that thing that you really want to rock in your life, whether it is your body, your health, your finances, something in your career, coaching, speaking, training, or starting your own business. And what's the one thing that you can do today to get you one step closer, because you just can't skip the changing and get to the change, no matter how much you want to. And I definitely have been on the wanting to.
Oh man, it's that action. It's those action steps, and they don't have to be big. They can be little ones. Just like one of our mentors says, Lisa Nichols, is just needlepoint moves. That's a pretty small move. And you're taking those little moves and then you get to some big ones. And it's like we've talked about a lot, actually on the show, and, Michelle, you and I, and in our community, that it takes the little things that to make us keep going, because if we're not celebrating what we're doing, we're not going anywhere else. We have to celebrate our little moves. Otherwise we just get burnt out and we get tired of it and we give up. Yeah.
And so many of us wait until we get to the end of the journey to celebrate. But if you think about a marathon, there are people cheering people on all throughout the journey. I mean, imagine how lonely and awful that 26-mile run would be if there was nobody cheering for you until you got all the way to the end. Right. And I think about little like babies, right? When they are learning how to walk, like we celebrate them for every single teeny tiny step they take.
Yes, we do. Oh man. Yeah, for sure. Little ones. And I just know, just even people in my life, I will take the time to celebrate, but not so much me. And I'm starting to learn that, like, wow, you know what? You did good today. So we are starting a new year here. The audience, what is it that you want to do? What steps do you want to take? Just little things, and start making a plan right now. So Michelle, before we do take another break, where can people find you? And what is one step that you could suggest it doesn't matter what anybody wants to do. It could be a small thing. What's the first step you would suggest?
I love that. You can find me pretty much anywhere. I'm Coach Michelle Moore on Instagram, on Facebook, my website, just Coach Michelle Moore is a really easy way to find me. And my email address is the same, Coach Michelle Moore at gmail.com. And the one step would be to allow yourself to be curious about what it is that you want. There are so many of us that don't actually give ourselves the time to explore that. So really think about no filters, right? What is it that you want? What is it that you desire, right? If you really could have anything that you wanted, and I believe that you can, if you really could have anything that you wanted, what is it that you want? And I would start by just giving yourself the space, whether you do that in a quiet meditation or you do that just through journaling. I want this. And if that feels too much for you to start with what you like and allow it to be like, I like comfortable clothes. I like boots. I like high heels. I like, warm blankets, and allow yourself to start with what you like before you step into what you desire. Some of us need to pace ourselves there. That would be where I would start.
Yeah, I really like that. That's true. It doesn't even take that much time. Just start feeling it and feel the joy of what you like, whether it is a cozy blanket or whatever. Like, feel that joy. And that just brings more to you when you feel into that. So we are going to take a quick break again, and we'll be right back with some final thoughts for you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine, where we overcome everything and compromise nothing. My guest today is Michelle Moore, and we were entering our last segment talking about celebrating what we've done, finding joy in just like a list of what you like. We are coming into a new year here. And like we were talking about on break, we can have a new day every day, but coming into a new year, what it is that you want. And you can start with something like Michelle was talking about, what your favorite things are, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be a huge thing. So Michelle, you were talking about encouragement and not putting a lot of pressure on us because it is a new year, because we can start a new time anytime. So what would you say to the listener about, not putting a lot of pressure, but still, going for the goals?
I love that. Focus on yourself, and not on what everybody else is doing, because there's a lot of advice that comes out this time of year. Yeah. And maybe take a break from social media, from your emails, and give yourself, even if it's just a short period in time, it doesn't have to be, days. If you can do that, that's great. But just even an hour to just sit in, I call it a feedback-less environment, meaning where there's just no feedback, and allow yourself that moment. And when I say feedback, no music, right? Just you, and allow yourself to really sit with and be with that question of, what is it that I desire? So many of us are living our lives. One of my friends and a coach says, there's so much importance in creating a life that you design versus living your life by default. And so many of us are just on autopilot, right? We're just automated with how we're living our lives. And so give yourself that time to just sit in a feedbackless environment and be with what it is that you desire. And if you see a lot of people on social media encouraging you to come up with a word of the year or the theme of the year or what your goals are or your resolutions, and that feels good to you, then great. But if it doesn't, and it truly never did for me, then don't. Because every single day is a new year for you. And remember that the journey of becoming that new you, that's an evolution. It's not a place that you land. It's not something you're going to do in a day or a week or a year. It's something that you're going to be in. We're like the evergreen trees in the forest, right? We're constantly in a cycle of birth and death and rebirth and parts dying and more rebirth. And so understanding and embracing that it's a bigger journey than just the 12 months on the calendar, and give yourself some grace in that process. And see if there's one thing, again, back to that one thing that you can do to bring yourself closer to the things that you desire, the experiences that you want. And that would be my encouragement as you move into the new year. Don't try to do everything. Focus on one thing that you really want.
I think that's beautiful advice, because we already put so much pressure on ourselves in so many things. And it doesn't have to be like, everybody joins the gym at the beginning of the year or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't. It could be, you can start again at any time. And the word thing, sometimes I've gotten into that, and other times like, nothing really resonates with me, So yeah, I get that. I get that it doesn't have to be. I've asked a few people, and this is just kind of a fun question to me. If you were given like 30 seconds in an elevator and somebody asks you like, I want to change my life and I just don't know how, what would you say to them?
You, you do know how. And the asking of the question lets me know that to be true. Mm-hmm. And what you might be missing is the support to have the person guide those answers out of you. And it is possible.
Yeah, I love that, because it is possible, and we do have the answers. Sometimes we don't. It's like that. That's so much of what makes a good coach is that we, especially the training we've had, is like we know to ask those questions that might be a little bit difficult or might kind of catch somebody off guard.
Sure.
So yeah, we need somebody on our side to help us figure things out, Yeah. So any final words for our listeners and on this New Year's Eve day?
Yeah, I thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Thank you for showing up. Whether you feel it or believe it right now, you're enough. And your existence on this planet means that you are valuable and you are valued. And it's okay if you don't see it or feel it or believe it right now. I know it to be true. Mm-hmm. If you don't have all the answers or you don't know what your next step is, keep showing up. Keep showing up to conversations like this and surrounding yourself with people who do make you feel good inside, and you'll get there. And the journey isn't one to be rushed, right? We can make the decisions, this is another one of my favorite quotes, to change our lives. And then we'll spend the rest of our lives doing it. It's a process, right? And where you are right now, even if it doesn't feel like it, this is the good part.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree. And you're never too young to begin. You're never too old to begin. It really doesn't matter. You just have to start. My dad was saying yesterday, and he's often said a few times, he's 85 years old. And even though we've had a lot of trauma between us, I listen. And he says, I don't know why I'm here. He goes, I feel like I should do something for somebody. And I said, Dad, you're still breathing. You're still here. There is a purpose. Just, think about what makes you feel good. What lights you up? What, if doing something for somebody is something that lights you up, what could you do? You at 85 are healthier than many people. He doesn't look anywhere near his age, and he's going. Go help some of the people that, maybe aren't as fortunate in health or in any other way. Just go visit some people at a nursing home, or go visit somebody that, I don't know, they're in a rehab facility. Do something that maybe could boost somebody up, and you're going to end up feeling good yourself, Yeah. So, yeah. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us on New Year's Eve day. We appreciate it. Thank you, Michelle. I love you forever. You're just so precious to me. Always a part of my heart. I don't know what I'd do without you. And I'm honored that you're in my life. And gosh, do you remember our first, I know we have to go, that one of our first exercises together where we had to just look in each other's eyes for 3 minutes. Oh man, that was scary. I had a hard time looking at anybody's eyes at that time. And now it's not as difficult. I have a little more belief in myself, and a lot of that has to do with you. I thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for sharing your listeners with me and allowing me to share some of my and our journeys together.
Yes. Thank you.
Good stuff. Yeah. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year, everyone. I hope that this year is everything that you want it to be. And we are here, both of us individually, as you would need a coach. Reach out to either one of us, whoever resonates with you, whatever works for you. And we have a lot of other colleagues we could recommend to you if you want to start on a journey of transformation. Thank you again, everyone. And I hope to see you next week, next Friday. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Transformation with Martine. Did listening today spark a sense of hope and possibility? Hold on to this feeling and tune in every second and fourth Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific for more inspiring conversations with Martine and her guests. They will show you there is hope, and you are right where you need to be. Martine is dedicated to supporting you right where you are while launching you towards promise, passion, and possibility that leads to the fulfilled life your heart aches for. If you're tired of being stuck, schedule a complimentary consultation with Martine and get on the exciting path towards the life you want to be living. Visit martineemmons.com and make your appointment today.